Many seniors over the age of 70 share a curious experience. Over the years, in different cities, cultures, and family contexts, they report the same type of dream. They are walking along a dirt road, surrounded by tall trees and a deep silence, until they come across a simple, empty house that is strangely familiar. This scene is repeated in various accounts, even though these people don't know each other or have any apparent connection. What is behind this pattern? How can we explain that so many people dream the same thing after the age of 70? This isn't an isolated or symbolic episode, but a very specific image that manifests with clarity and frequency. Sleep specialists rule out direct clinical causes. However, students of spirituality like Sylvia Browne believe there is a message behind it. Something that goes beyond the subconscious and that may be trying to prepare the mind for a more profound transition than one imagines. If you've ever had a similar dream or know someone who has, stick around. Throughout this video, we're going to explore what this might mean and why so many people, after the age of 70, come into contact with this very similar dreamlike image. Sylvia Browne dedicated part of her life to investigating spiritual messages that come through dreams, especially in the later stages of life. According to her, the repetition of this road, this house, and this silent environment is not random. It's a type of gentle calling that goes beyond words. Please subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up if this topic sparks your curiosity. Now let's understand what's behind this phenomenon and why so many seniors feel that these dreams are more than just loose memories from a sleeping mind. Sylvia claimed that as human beings get older, they begin to have more direct contact with what she called the intermediate plane. This would be a kind of passageway between the material and spiritual worlds, accessed more frequently by those who have lived a good portion of their lives and are closer to the conclusion of their journey. According to her, dreams are not mere repetitions of everyday thoughts, but symbolic experiences with coded information. The dirt road, for example, would represent the path of return to one's essence, the simple and empty house, the meeting point with one's own soul, free from the distractions of the world. This isn't a prophecy of death, but an invitation to reunite with something greater and truer. Interestingly, many seniors report a feeling of peace when they wake up from these dreams. Despite the enigmatic tone of the scene, almost all say they felt welcomed, as if they had been visited by a tranquil presence without words, but full of meaning. Sylvia Browne said that this is one of the indications that we're not talking about ordinary dreams. She called this type of experience indirect contact. In her books, she mentioned that the soul, upon perceiving the proximity of a new cycle, begins to send signals through universal symbols. And this dream, recurring among the elderly, would be one of those signals. Not to frighten, but to prepare and console. There is also an interesting aspect in the description of the dream landscape. The tall trees, for example, are often associated with accumulated wisdom, and the silence, which many describe as absolute, is not uncomfortable. On the contrary, it's described as a welcoming silence, where time seems suspended. For Sylvia, this suspension of time is one of the hallmarks of spiritual communication. When the internal clock goes silent and the mind quiets down, space opens up for messages that cannot be contained in words, but are understood intuitively. The empty house, without furniture, without noise, would be the reflection of the spirit detaching itself from forms and returning to the essential. Another curiosity is that even when repeating the dream several times, seniors don't feel afraid. There is no rush, no sense of danger. They walk naturally, look at the house, sometimes enter, sometimes just observe. But they all report the same impression. It makes sense, even if they can't explain what. It's as if they receive a forgotten memory, something familiar that returns after decades. Sylvia said that these dreams are gifts, seeds of consciousness left to bloom in due time. And perhaps the fact that so many people dream the same thing reveals something deeper about the nature of aging and the silent connection between souls in similar phases of life. It's not just the visual details that are striking in these dreams. Many seniors claim to feel a presence, even when no one is visibly around. It's as if an invisible companion accompanies them during the journey, guiding them with serenity, without interfering. This presence doesn't speak, but transmits a peaceful certainty that everything is in the right place. Sylvia Browne identified this element as the spirit guide, an energetic figure that accompanies each person throughout life and becomes more perceptible as the soul prepares for its next stage. According to her, these guides don't appear with concrete images because their communication is more subtle, based on sensations and perceptions. The silence of the dream would, in fact, be a form of listening, an invitation to perceive what has always been there, but that the rush of life did not allow one to notice. From the age of 70 onwards, the soul becomes more receptive, and dreams cease to be just dreams. Another point mentioned by many is that after this type of dream, there are subtle behavioral changes. Some begin to value the present moment more. Others start to reorganize objects, review photographs, write letters, or simply become more reflective. Sylvia saw in this a reflection of spiritual wisdom awakening through the dream experience. It's not a forced change, but a natural one. The feeling that something needs to be concluded or prepared manifests little by little, like an intuition that grows stronger. This preparation, according to her, isn't for death itself, but for balance, a return to harmony between body, mind, and spirit. And it's at this point that the message of the dream reveals itself as useful, not as a prediction, but as a direction, a silent reminder that there is still time to connect with what really matters. It's interesting to note that these experiences aren't linked to specific religious beliefs. People with different spiritual backgrounds, including those who have never had any involvement with religious practices, report the same type of dream. This reinforces the idea that it's something deeper and more universal. Sylvia argued that certain spiritual messages don't need labels or doctrines. They simply happen because they're part of the human process. The dream of the road and the house would be one of these natural manifestations of consciousness, opening up to what comes next. You don't need to believe in reincarnation, angels, or life after death to feel the emotional impact of these images. They speak directly to the essence, transcending cultural barriers and formal beliefs. Researchers who have studied this type of dream among seniors have also discovered recurring patterns in the feeling upon waking. Many say they wake up with tears in their eyes, but not of sadness. They are gentle tears, linked to a type of longing that is difficult to explain. Sylvia believed that this was a sign that the soul had recognized something important during the dream. An ancient memory, perhaps prior to the current life, or simply an inner truth that was dormant. The road of the dream would be, in this case, not only a symbol, but a memory. The house, not just an imaginary construction, but a place of the soul. And when these elements appear so frequently among people over 70, it's necessary to look carefully. There's something there that deserves to be understood calmly. The frequency with which this type of dream occurs also seems to increase at certain times. For example, after the loss of a loved one, in periods of changes in health, or when the senior begins to reflect more on the past. It's as if the subconscious takes advantage of these emotional openings to send clearer messages. Sylvia said that spiritual dreams don't arise by chance. They wait for the right moment to appear, as if they know when the person will be ready to listen. And unlike common dreams which dissipate quickly, these remain alive for years. Many seniors can describe the scene of the road and the house in detail even decades later, as if they had lived it in waking life. This permanence in memory is another indication that these dreams have a distinct quality. They don't follow the fragmented and chaotic logic of typical dreams. Instead, they are coherent, calm, almost linear. The landscape doesn't change suddenly, the elements are consistent, and the feeling is of decelerated time. Sylvia saw in this a spiritual signature. She said that the intermediate plane communicates through simplicity and repetition. Therefore, the symbols chosen are always the same. The road, the house, the silence, the soft light. There's no rush. Everything is built so that the senior feels safe, recognized, and above all, at peace. The main function of these dreams, according to her, is to comfort. And this explains why, even without understanding, so many wake up with the feeling that they have been touched by something sacred. When family members hear these accounts, they initially don't know how to react. They think it might just be imagination, a reflection of medication, or worries about old age. But as the accounts are repeated with similar details among different people, they begin to realize that there is something more to it. Sylvia Browne always maintained that spiritual dreams should not be undervalued, as they carry subtle information that escapes logical reason. Attentive and respectful listening is fundamental in these cases. When a senior shares this type of dream, they are opening up an intimate space for reflection. It's not a matter of superstition, but of sensitivity. Validating this experience is also a way to strengthen the emotional bond and allow that moment to have meaning, even without immediate rational explanations, and this helps the person better deal with the profound issues that come with aging. Other scholars of spirituality, even with approaches different from Sylvia's, agree on one point: recurring dreams in advanced age are a reflection of internal transitions. Life after 70 is usually quieter, less hectic, and therefore more conducive to the emergence of symbols that were previously stifled by everyday life. It's in this calmer space that certain deep contents find a way to emerge. The dirt road can also be seen as a symbol of the personal journey, full of marks, forks, and past choices. The house at the end of that road, then, would represent the spiritual destiny, or simply an emotional arrival point, where the person reviews, even unconsciously, everything they have built throughout life. It's a way for the subconscious to help the senior elaborate on their journey and find meaning in the final chapters. In some variations of the dream, the house has the door ajar, and there is light on inside. This image, even simple, is loaded with symbolism. The light can represent consciousness, the clarity that comes with time. The open door indicates welcome, availability, absence of judgment. Sylvia said that these elements aren't chosen randomly by the mind. They are accessed from what she called spiritual memory, something that transcends the experiences of this life. Even those who have never seen that house anywhere, when dreaming of it, feel that they already know it. And it's exactly this sense of familiarity that makes the dream so striking. It touches on something that is beyond language, beyond explanation. It's like finding a part of oneself that was forgotten, but that never ceased to exist. It's important to emphasize that not all dreams with this structure indicate something definitive. Many happen simply to generate reflection. Sylvia explained that sometimes the soul uses these moments of openness to reorganize feelings, forgive old hurts, or simply remind the person that there is still time to live more authentically. The road may not lead to a farewell, but to an internal change, and the house can be seen not as an end but as a new starting point. It all depends on the emotional state of the dreamer and the stage of life they are in. Therefore, it's essential not to interpret these dreams with fear, but with curiosity. They don't announce the end. They are just invitations to look inward and listen to what has often been left aside for years. Even among seniors who face illnesses or physical limitations, these dreams often arise with the same degree of detail and serenity. It's as if, regardless of external conditions, there is an inner part that remains whole and active, guiding the process of spiritual maturation. Sylvia called this the essential core, a space within each person that remains intact, even in the face of the losses of age. And it's this core that communicates through dreams. It doesn't use words but images, sensations, sensory memories, and therefore these dreams don't need complicated interpretations. Just feel what they provoke. If they leave peace, that's what matters. If they awaken the desire to reorganize life, that's their purpose. And if they just make you think, they've already fulfilled their role. There's enormous value in simply allowing these dreams to exist without trying to fit them into very restrictive logics. The current generation of seniors grew up in more practical times, with less space for conversations about soul and intuition. Therefore, it's common for them to feel some strangeness when experiencing something so symbolic. Sylvia said that the most important thing is not to ignore it. Even if the explanation never comes completely, the simple act of respecting one's own experience already brings strength. Dreaming of the road, the house, the silence, and the light isn't a sign that something is wrong. On the contrary, it's a sign that an internal process is happening, silent and natural. Something that brings the person closer to themselves, that offers comfort and perspective. And that can be, for many, the beginning of a new understanding of their own existence. Sylvia Browne believed that, as one approaches the final stage of life, the soul begins to align past, present, and future in the same symbolic space. Therefore, dreams become more linear and meaningful. She said that it's in this period that many seniors receive important signs, not about what is going to happen, but about how they are internally. The dreamed road doesn't lead to an unknown destination, but to the center of one's own consciousness. The house, in turn, represents the welcoming of this deeper self. And when this dream is repeated in so many people with such similar descriptions, it's not a coincidence. It's a universal language of the soul, accessible precisely when the distractions of the world diminish. Old age, in this sense, ceases to be just a closure, becoming also a point of revelation, a time where certain truths emerge with delicacy, waiting only for an attentive look to be recognized. Curiously, this type of dream doesn't usually appear in moments of agitation. It arises in periods of introspection, when the senior allows themselves to slow down. It's as if silence were the key to open an internal door that has been locked for a long time. Sylvia said that with time the soul stops shouting and starts whispering, and these whispers arrive precisely through symbols like those of the road and the house. There are no impositions. There are no promises. There's only a possibility of reconnection. The person dreams, wakes up, and, even without understanding everything, feels different, more centered, calmer, perhaps even more secure in the face of the future. That's the strength of a spiritual dream. It's not in predicting what's to come, but in remembering what has always been there. It's the soul saying, "I continue here, even when everything changes." This type of message, according to Sylvia, is a gift that can only be understood by those who are ready. There's no way to force it, nor to teach someone to have this type of dream. It happens at the right time, when the mind quiets down and the heart is willing to listen. For many seniors, this dream comes after important losses, such as the death of a spouse, or upon reaching a symbolic age. Others receive this image when moving to a new place or when closing a personal cycle. The context may vary, but the feeling is always similar. Something inside changes position, as if a piece finally fits into place. Sylvia saw in this the spiritual intelligence in action, conducting each soul with delicacy and purpose, even when reason can't keep up. Despite all the mystery, the beauty of these dreams lies precisely in the simplicity. There are no great revelations, nor amazing images, just a road, a house, and a silent walk. And yet, that's enough to provoke profound transformations. What seems small in the eyes of the world can be immense in the internal dimension. Sylvia insisted that the most important moments of spiritual life don't happen in grandiose rituals, but in the most intimate experiences, like a dream that is repeated. And perhaps that's why so many seniors remember these dreams with so much affection. Because there, even for a few minutes, they felt something that transcends time, that doesn't need explanation, and that just needs to exist to make sense. In a world that values productivity so much, it's rare to find space to simply stop and reflect. But this type of dream offers exactly that, a symbolic pause, a suspension of time, an encounter with that which isn't measured in results. Sylvia Browne saw in old age a unique opportunity for this type of experience. And as strange as it may seem, the repetition of these dreams among the elderly is a reminder that, even in the face of the limitations of age, there is a rich, active, and deeply connected inner life with what is most essential. Listening to these accounts with respect is, therefore, a way to honor this phase of life, recognizing in it not the end, but the maturity of a spiritual journey. If you've made it this far, perhaps this topic has touched something within you. Perhaps it has reminded you of someone, or of a dream of your own. Sylvia Browne said that we don't need to understand everything now, just welcome what we feel. If this message made sense to you, consider sharing it with someone who may also identify with it. And if you want to follow more reflections like this, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Sometimes, just a simple account is enough to awaken forgotten memories and open paths of understanding. And in that silence between the road and the house may be hidden one of the deepest messages we have ever received, that the soul, even in silence, never stops speaking.